So now that we have a little bit of an idea of how it works, let's formalize the steps and so that way we can tackle any type of linear equation. So the first step is going to be to clear fractions. So eliminate any fractions by multiplying both sides of the equation by a common denominator. So we're going to see that in action. I have a slight twist to that process, which I hope is going to be a little bit easier for you. So step 2, simplify each side separately. Use the distributive property to clear parentheses and combine like terms as needed. So that's what we did originally in this problem. We combined like terms. So the 4x minus the 2x, we combined it. The 4 and the 3, we combined it to a 7. So that's all that means, combining like terms. So don't get wordy or don't get nervous about it. Number 3, isolate the variable terms on one side. Use the addition property of equality to transform the equation so that all terms with the variables are on one side and all the numbers are on the other side. So that's what we did here. We used our two properties. So we subtracted 2x from both sides. We subtracted 7 from both sides. So that got all the variables on one side of the equals and all the numbers on the other side of the equals. So that's essentially what step 3 is wanting to do. Use that addition property. Step 4, transform so that the coefficient of the variable is 1. Divide. That's all that means, is divide. So that's your last step. Get rid of that 4 that's in front of the x. Transform it into a 1. And then, of course, your last step is to check. And again, do that when you're feeling not so comfortable about your answers. So let's try a few. So we got a few good ones. 6p minus 4 times, in parentheses, 3 minus 2p equals 5 times p minus 4 in parentheses minus 10. So where do we start with that one? Well, parentheses do come first. They still want to try to get rid of those first. Before we start combining and moving stuff around, let's get rid of those parentheses first. So we have to use the distributive property. So now we want to be a little bit careful because there's a minus sign that's attached to this 4. So we're going to take that minus 4 and we're going to distribute that into the parentheses. So we got to multiply it by both pieces inside. So the 6p in front doesn't change, but now the minus 4 times the positive 3 gives you a minus 12. And now here we got to be careful. A negative times a negative is a positive, so we're going to get a positive 8p. And now the parentheses are gone on that side. So let's do the same thing over here. We got a 5 that we want to distribute. Now there's no number in front of this p, so we'll just squeeze a 1 in there. So 5 times 1p is 5p. 5 times the minus 4 is a minus 20. And then we still got the minus 10 after that. Okay, so that's step 1. Get rid of those parentheses. Now we can start to combine. So let's combine things together that go together. So we got two things with p's. So let's combine those. So 6p and 8p is 14p. We still got the minus 12. And over here, well, we got these two numbers that we can combine. So we got a minus 20 and a minus 10, which is what? Minus 30. Okay. So now we have that. And now we got our choice again. So which part do we move around? Now, like I said before, let's start with the variables and start with the smaller one. So this 5p is the smaller one, so let's move that over by subtracting it. So that cancels them out. So now we got 14 minus the 5, which is 9p. And we bring down the minus 12, and then we can bring down the minus 30. All right. So now we've got all the variables on one side. So that's step 1. Well, not step 1. That's step maybe 3. So, but we got all the variables on one side. So that's good. Now we got to move these numbers. So the 9 goes next, or the minus 12? Yeah, the minus 12. And we got to do the opposite. So plus 12 and plus 12. So we got 9p equals, so negative 30, positive 12. It's going to be negative 18. So we got 9p equals negative 18, and then the last step is divide. So p equals negative 2. So that should be it. Now again, I'm being very bad about not doing checks, but if you plug that negative 2 back into the original, it should check. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. You got negative 2 times a negative 2, which is positive 4. So that's 7. So negative 28, negative 12, that's negative 40. So over here we got negative 2 and negative 4 is negative 6. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Negative 30 and negative 10 is negative 40. So negative 40 on one side, negative 40 on the other side. We're good. All right. Well, this one's got a little bit more substance to it. So we got square brackets and we got parentheses. So we got to be a little careful when we're doing this. So, but where do we start? Well, the rule I would follow is innermost first and then work your way out and get rid of those parentheses that way. So in this case, we want to see if we can combine anything inside of the parentheses, which we can't because you got one thing with a z and one thing without. But we have this minus sign in front. Now remember, if there's no number there, we can squeeze a 1. So technically this is like a negative 1 in front of the parentheses. So that is what we're going to distribute into those parentheses. Now the bracket we can't get rid of yet, but we can distribute that negative 1 in. So negative 1 times positive 5 gives you a minus 5z. Negative 1 times a positive 2, which is a negative 2. And we still got our bracket. Over here, well, it's the same thing. There's no number in front of the parentheses, so we can squeeze a 1 in there. So if we take this positive 1 and distribute it, so we got 2 and then plus 2z, and that, again, the positive 1 doesn't change anything, so we can just lose the parentheses altogether. All right, now we got one more parenthesis to get rid of. So same thing as before. Squeeze a 1 in there and distribute. But now, let's just distribute to all 3 pieces. So negative 1 times positive 2z is a negative 2z. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5z. Negative times negative is positive. Whoops. Okay. So all the parentheses, all the brackets are gone. Now we can start to combine stuff. So we got a z and a z here. So that combines to what? How many z's? 7? No, 3. So we got a minus 2 and a positive 5, so it's positive 3z plus 2. And over here, we got the 2 and the 7, so that's going to combine to a 9. So let's go 2z plus 9. Okay, so we've simplified each side separately. Now we got to start moving stuff from one side to the other. Let's move the smaller one, which is the 2z, so let's subtract that. So those cancel. 3z minus 2z is a 1z. A 1z. A 1z for your baby. All right. Now, when there's a 1 in front, we don't need to keep it. So just like how we added it in, we can take it out when there's nothing, when it's just a 1. So the only thing left now is to subtract that 2. So 1z becomes a z. 9 minus 2 is 7. So there's our answer. All right. Well, that was a lot for one video. So let's do these last two problems in the next one. See you in a minute.